no way that they can make a living now. Nobody knows you can make a livable wage working for Walmart, so you got to sell a little dope, a little weed on the side. You got to do some.
Okay.
And that's allowed. I mean, because there are, if you ever watch a movie called, if you just go to Google Video and go to obstruction of justice, it's allowed that dope and all those drugs are brought in by planes, brought in and dropped in different places, and the people in our neighborhoods are only distributors.
Okay.
They are not any of the top level people that, you know, bring the stuff in from the different countries and fly the planes. The people that are going to jail aren't those folk.
So the real Scarfaces, they're the real Scarfaces and the real gangsters.
Well, it's a means of control.
Luciano gang, they up top.
Well, it's a means of control. If you got a bunch of people that are on island, you got a bunch. First of all, you got 2 million blacks. We are the largest incarceration of population of any place in the world, as including China, as including Russia. We have per 100,000, we have more people incarcerated than any place else in the world.
Yes.
The reason is that the economy is backing up. You got to put most of these black men or minorities in jail, 'cause that's basically where the problem is starting.
Okay.
And that's basically what they're doing now. So what they're doing, they throw the dope in on top of that, because if you keep the people on dope, well then we got one thing wrong. They won't be uprising and asking a whole lot of questions.
I always say, like Malcolm said, you can't even get alcohol and the permission without the white man's permission. I don't. But you know what? The caller may beat me up, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the caller because they have a question. Assalamu alaikum, and
yeah, how you doing?
beat the drums. How you doing?
Hello?
Go ahead. They hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yes, I've been following the 2 doctors, Warren, for quite some time, and I recorded a lot of their material.
Wow.
But I also recorded a lot of other materials and stuff, but I don't know why the people that of knowledge, I'm talking about black people of knowledge, like these preachers and stuff and everything, if you studied the Bible and everything and history,
yes, sir,
and you know the truth, why aren't they telling our people the truth? Because the power is in the word, and the word is what these people have given our children and everything to make them behave this way.
Okay, my brother.
And they haven't, no one has told them that.
Okay, they would say the power is in the word, so I don't know which one you want to address that.
Well, I just want to say that many of the preachers and ministers in Chicago are on faith-based money. And that money gives them social services. It allows them to have after-school programs, but it doesn't allow them to do any kind of economic development, do any kind of independent, building of wealth of any sort.
About the drugs in our community. We don't grow it, we don't ship it over here, but you know what? Our country has satellites that can take a picture of a license plate 300 miles from the sky. Why can't we divert those satellites over the fields of the cocaines, the poppies, the marijuana, and say, hey, look, this is where you're growing it at. And another thing, back during when President Bush, when he was the head of CIA, he was in cahoots with Noriega. Okay. That's when the drugs really started. If you think about it, back during that time, back in the 80s, when the drugs started coming over here.
Gotcha.
And my philosophy is that our country is in cahoots with the drug trade, because if you notice during election time, especially right before election, our community is flooded with drugs. I mean, you know.
All right, my brother.
Yeah.
All right, my brother.
Connection or obstruction of justice, and look at it, because it's a film about a woman that was living her life, you know, just like a middle class, average American person, and her son ended up dead.
These are 2 white boys.
It's right, 2 white high school boys, and they ended up in the wrong place in the wrong time. And so what happened was they happened to see a drug drop.
Yes.
And that's the way, you know, the bottom line of it is they saw a drug drop and they ended up dead. And the woman, you know, devastated, came and wanted justice.
Yes.
And she saw it was obstructed.
Yes.
That's why you get the title Obstruction to Justice.
Yes.
Google video, go there and look. And then you'll see, as this gentleman just said that called in, why our drug situation is the way it is in America.
You let them comment on that. Okay, thank you, thank you.
Well, again, drugs is a means of enslaving people, putting people in a state of apathy or lackadaisical, whereby one, they're not going to revolt, and two, they're no threat to the system.
Very predictable.
Very predictable. And first of all, and last of all, the last speaker said, you have to, if you want to understand the drug business and how it operates, you got to go all the way back to slavery. And actually, the same families that was tied into drugs, I'll give you an example like Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This bloodline, Delano, was in the opium business, and they traded drugs to China during the opium war. So this money, the stuff they made, these families come all the way down. One of the most lucrative businesses in the world, beside oil and weapons, is drugs. And drugs is a huge amount of money to be made. And you have to realize that the CIA, to finance a lot of their wicked dark projects, they can't go to the Congress and ask for it. So what they do to finance those operations, they're in the drug trade. Like last week, said they got satellites. When the Taliban had control of Afghanistan, there was no drugs allowed. When Saddam had control of Iraq, they didn't allow no alcohol, wasn't no prostitution,
no pornography,
and wasn't no porno, wasn't none of that up in there.
No swine.
So once that was taken on, and the Western powers come in there, they allowed all of that stuff because they know that stuff has a way of undermining the peoples, psychologically and spiritually. So you maintain control.
Let me say this about the Taliban. You know what? One thing they did, they stopped the flow of opium coming up out of Afghanistan, but when the U.S., as our buddy say, Boise say, United Snakes, put in the Northern Alliance. Now you can get all the opium that you want out of Afghanistan. Can't do it without the white man's permission. You know what? Next caller, go ahead and they can go to y'all website to get that information.
Just put it in Google.
Y'all website.
www.plum.org.
Non-for-profit. We can say it all day.
But it's important that you realize that drugs are means of controlling folks. Let me say this, folks. China had a population of about, in the 1890s when they had the Opium War, of about, I think, was it 200 or 300 million people, somewhere around there now. You know, less than that. Listen, when they put them people on opium, England beat China as a result of them being on opium with about 40 or 50 ships, folks.
You know what? We got 3 callers, and y'all know what? Y'all gonna have to come on with it, okay?
Than it was, for instance, in the 1970s. The 1970s had much higher crime rate than exists today. And then lastly, I wanted to ask the doctor, exactly what university do you hold a doctoral degree from?
I have a doctor of theology. It's a religious degree. And
so you hold no social science degree?
No. Well, let me explain this to you. Back in the 70s, you didn't have drive-bys. You had little thuggish crimes, but you never had the type of threat or fear factor that you've had in the 80s and 90s. Now that's been documented by many studies that you have, because first of all, none of the gangs was as heavily armed as they are now. You know how they got armed? They got it from the drugs. Now I can spend a whole hour and showing you that drugs is over a $500 billion business worldwide.
Pictures, they're bad news in the community. And stop selling drugs. That's what the white man wants you to do. And you know what? I always give my guests the last minutes because I've been asking y'all questions. So start with Ms. Warren. Thank you for coming on Underground Railroad.
You're more than welcome. I just want to encourage everyone to please get peace of mind. There's a lot of confusion and chaos coming up in the world, and you will not be able to think clearly and make decisions unless you have taken care of certain fundamental things in your life, like your health, getting your economics together, and praying to the Heavenly Father for guidance and peace.
Okay, Professor, you have 1 minute. Thank you.
And I like to say that, like, it's important that you do your research. Now, most of this type of research about the drug business is that you can go on the internet and go to quality sites that's been done by professors. So one of the speakers called in and saying that drugs is not an important, it's an important component in the whole economy of this country. And when they busted Meyer Linsky, one of the head men of the drug business, he said without the drug business, this country would go bankrupt.